to Leader You by Black River Performance Management, where we believe work should fuel the human spirit, not drain it. In this leadership podcast, we will dive into the lived experiences of people flourishing in today's workplace and beyond. Join us to hear real-life examples of experiences from our own lives and from the leaders we know and trust.
Hey. Thank you for joining us on the Leader You podcast. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing Kyle Walbrun. He is the founder and visionary of EfficientAide, an assistant company. He has a huge passion for helping professionals work effectively and proficiently through a proven process of delegation. Throughout Kyle's career, he has partnered with a wide variety of business leaders, strategizing on how to buy back their time and eliminate their worry. I love that bio. It is short and sweet and to the point, and I'm super excited to have a conversation here with you, Kyle.
Very excited as well. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So you want to start off with your story, like kind of what led you down this path and, you know, what you're doing now.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate that. You know, I have a pretty interesting story of how I've gotten to the place I am now, which is, like you mentioned, you know, the founder and visionary here at EfficientAide. And it really starts back to, quite frankly, my upbringing. I started this company when I was in my early 20s. So I've been running this company now as an entrepreneur for a little over 12 years or so now. And really it boiled down to this really great upbringing that I had. Because really, if you look at my upbringing, my parents were very blue-collar folks. They didn't really have an entrepreneurial bone really in their body. But my dad was a mill worker. He worked shift work at a mill, a paper mill. I grew up in Wisconsin. But what I gathered from that, what I learned from my dad was just like this extreme value of hard work, dedication, and loyalty. He's coming up on 35 years now at that same company, which is unheard of in today's world. So seeing him get up and punch the clock every day when I know for a fact there are days he didn't want to, really instilled in me at a young age of that hard work and loyalty. And then what was really cool is I had on my mom's side of things, my mom was, you know, your very typical extrovert. Loved talking with people, was very friendly, was involved in the community. So I had this hard work from my dad, and then I had this ability to see my mom and learn how to connect with people and how to be outgoing and put yourself in uncomfortable positions. But still there's that part missing, right? Of like, where the heck did the business side come from? I was very lucky enough. I had an uncle growing up who was a serial entrepreneur, and I happened to be very close with him. Grew up in Wisconsin. He was very close to us. And so now I started to see what life could be like as a business owner, which from my lens looked pretty darn nice. You know, being able to create your own schedule, you know, had your own office. You know, I just love the thought of, wow, it's really cool to own something and start something. So at a young age, I mean, I'm talking, you know, even in early middle school, I was surrounded by these three folks, and they're huge parts of my life, right? And then my family. Mm-hmm. And so I had this seed plan, like, wow, if I take this hard work that I learned from my dad, this extrovert I learned from my mom, and then I see a little bit of this business side of things from my uncle, very early on, I knew that I was going to be an entrepreneur. I was really big in athletics when I was growing up. I played hockey. And I also learned very early on, you can't tell from Zoom, but I'm about 5'8", like $150 soaking wet. So I wasn't going to the league. So I realized very early on, I'm going to become an entrepreneur and I'm going to focus on business. And so, you know, throughout high school, you know, instead of getting jobs, you know, at a sandwich shop or a clothing store, I was looking for internships. I was looking to connect with other business leaders when all my other friends were maybe taking different paths. And then what was really great, Angie, is my senior year of high school. My dad, I always had a job every summer throughout high school. And he said, all right, son, I'm signing you up. You're going to work at the local mill where I grew up for a summer. I'm like, no. You know, I wanted to do more of this business. And it was a swing shift. So I was working nights, sometimes days. I'm out on a mill floor on a line. It was bar none the worst summer to date of my life. And I say that somewhat jokingly, but it was horrible. It was horrible. I'm not a very blue collar guy. And I remember that summer before I went to college, asking my dad, like, Dad, why the heck did you make me do this? And he told me very point blank, he said, son, I want you to realize what the other side of life, if your path is to become business and an entrepreneur, but I want you to know, I want you to feel like what that is. You don't go work your butt off in college. This is where you'll be. And you didn't enjoy it. And from then on, I thought, I am going to show up to class. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure I never step foot in the middle. And that's no discredit to, obviously, people in that industry. It just was not for me.
Right.
And so I go off to college, and then now I'm like, all right, I've always had my mind, what could I do to be an entrepreneur? So I went and got my first major in marketing. I'm like, okay, great. Marketing's fantastic. But then I thought, okay, well, marketing's no good if you can't prove ROI. So I said, all right, I'm going to go get another major. I'm going to get a finance degree. If I can do marketing, I need to be able to back it up with the financials. Got done with that major and realized, wow, I didn't necessarily fully love marketing, didn't fully love finance. I liked it, but I wasn't in love with it. And I said, okay, well, what good's marketing and finance if you can't communicate with people? So then I did a third major in communication. Left college with 3 majors. It sounds a lot more impressive than what it is, honestly. I was honestly really enjoying college, so I was trying to ride it out a little bit as well. Mm-hmm. And so now here it comes, just like every kid faces. You're done with college. And I was doing internships also all throughout college. So I'm just gathering and surrounding myself with business-minded folks and entrepreneurs. Get out of college, and of course, I have no money, to start a business. I didn't have the idea yet, and I needed to get some money. So I went to school in Milwaukee, and a few things I realized. Love the Midwest, grew up in the Midwest, but I love the mountains. And so I packed up all my stuff after I graduated, and I moved out to Denver, Colorado, where I'm at today, out here in Colorado. And of course, I needed to get a job. So I ended up getting my first job. And it was actually, in my entire life to this day, it's the only corporate job I really ever had. And I ended up getting a full-time salaried position at an IT staffing company in downtown Denver. And I was hired as just like a junior sales associate. But for me, I'm like, this is great. I'm not an entrepreneur, but hey, I have a salary. Looking back on it, it was nothing. But I thought, this is great. And I was required, Angie, to make 80 cold calls and send out 100 cold emails per day.
Ooh.
And so, yeah, really, really tough.
Yeah.
And so I lasted about 4 months. Mm-hmm. And woke up one day, I'm like, this just isn't the life for me. Mm-hmm. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to run a business. I don't know how I'm going to do it. But sometimes to make that leap, I thought, I'm not going to make it by working 10-hour shifts cold calling people. So ended up putting in my 2 weeks notice, ended up quitting. So now I'm sitting in my apartment. I have no job. I'm out here all by myself. All my family's still in the Midwest. And I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to think right now what I can ultimately do to start a business. Again, I have no seed money, so a lot of options were off the table. So I thought back about all my prior experiences, thought about the upbringing from my dad, from my mom, from my uncle, thought about this from college, where in college, my unique ability was I was kind of good at a lot of different things. I wasn't necessarily an expert at marketing or finance communication, but I was pretty good at a little bit of all of it. Mm-hmm. And so I said, you know what? I sat in my apartment, and literally within 72 hours of the time I quit my job, 72 hours later, EfficientAide was born. And I thought to myself, what can I do? I said, you know what? I'm going to market myself as a jack of all trades guy. I'm like, there has to be a need out in the world for the Swiss Army knife guy that could do a little bit of admin, do maybe some marketing, maybe help with a little bit of finance. So I went on and I hired someone for a few bucks to make a logo. I built a cheap website, went to Vistaprint, got some business cards, and said, I'm going to market myself as a virtual assistant. Now, keep in mind, this was 12 years ago. Virtual assistance was kind of a foreign word at this time. And so I'm like, how am I going to pitch myself in this new industry? And what I did is I went on Craigslist. Craigslist was very popular at the time. Mm-hmm. And I looked for every single job ad that was for a marketing assistant, office assistant, admin assistant. And at that time, over a decade ago, as most folks are aware, it was you hired W-2 folks. They were either part-time or full-time. You had to get a desk for them and office equipment for them. So I would just cold email them and say, hey, I see you have this job posting. Everything that you need done, I can do, and I can do it virtually. And hey, I'll only charge you for only output. You're not paying for my downtime. You're not paying for my bathroom breaks. You don't have to provide me with any infrastructure or equipment. And I ended up getting my first account. It was an office liquidation company downtown Denver. And yeah, that was about 12 years ago now. One thing led to the next. I'm a big believer in just being a good person. And to me, that means, showing up early, staying late. You need it Friday, I'm going to get it to you Thursday. And I was very grateful and fortunate enough to really build the business entirely off of referrals. And so one thing led the next to the next. And I'm proud sitting here today that, I now sit in the visionary kind of founder seat at the company. We have assistants all over the country now, and we're working with leaders anywhere from solopreneurs all the way up to C-suite leaders and, Fortune 100 companies. And pretty long-winded answer, Angie, but that in a nutshell is kind of my story and how I've got here today.
I love it. Thank you for sharing. It's just, I've gotten to hear it before, but you added a few things in there that I didn't know. And one thing that really resonated with me, you won't know about me either, is that I also worked at a mill for a summer,
You can relate.
with my mom. No doubt. So literally, I grew up in a mill in Post Falls, Idaho. So North Idaho, we had a big mill community, logging community, and I actually worked in a mill. Have you ever heard of air stickering? Do you know what that is?
I don't.
You literally stack lumber with sticks in between them. You get the big stack of lumber, and then you have to air it out. So you put these little pegs, sticks on it, and then you take it and unstack it and restack it. So you take this huge pallet and unstack it and make sure there's air so that the wood can dry out and it can breathe. So I would literally stack lumber for 6 hours a day, get up as early as we could because it was summer, and be done by 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock so we could go take a dip in the river and be done. But it was the hardest job, and I was so ripped by the end of the summer. My arms were...
I believe it. I believe it.
So by the end of the summer, I had these incredible arms, and I'd swim, and it was, and I remember that time fondly of working with my mom. We'd pack our lunches. We would my mom. She didn't have any kind of real education. I wasn't raised in that kind of environment, and so it was hard work. I mean, my mom picked rocks. She did all kinds of things to make money as a single mom, and so working in a lumber mill, that brought some memories. So thank you for sharing that today. That hard work, it pays off, right?
You're absolutely correct. And I think what you really learn, and you probably did as well, is just because you don't enjoy something doesn't mean you don't show up. Mm-hmm. And that was what you probably realized, and same with me. I mean, I'll tell you, 10 out of 10 mornings, I did not want to go into the mill. But from learning from my dad and just how life works, you show up. I committed to that summer. You have to show up. And there's a lot of value in learning that at a young age.
Yeah, I never wanted to get up at 5 in the morning in the summer, 4:30, 5, never felt like it. Let's just say that. But I did it anyway. And I agree that is a lesson. And I think for our younger listeners or our parent listeners out there, make your kids do stuff you don't want to do. It builds a lot of character, and it actually builds a lot of strength. And there's a lot of power in doing things you don't like, because life is full of it.
Yeah. It's funny, you mentioned that, my dad probably had no idea the impact that truly made on me until I was an adult. I had mentioned it to him, or I had spoke about it, and he had no idea how big of an impact that one summer made on the trajectory I took and the approach I took in life, and that I still do this day. So it's a great lesson where you may not always understand it, but if you surround yourself with good people, and fortunately for me, that was my parents, good things tend to happen.
Yeah. So all this kind of talk about how we met and why I was interested in bringing you on the podcast. Well, obviously you're very entertaining and fun to talk to and very extroverted, so it's easy to connect with you. And so I saw your presentation that you were doing for TTI, which was for people like myself that were looking to hire a virtual assistant. And I've been looking around for a while, trying to find wanting a virtual assistant, but not really knowing what that pathway looks like, not really knowing what to expect, and also recognizing what it takes to hire and train somebody, especially when I'm in the industry of understanding that. And I knew that Rob and I didn't have the capacity to do it and do it well because of our schedule. And so the thought of even hiring somebody just scared us because we were like, no, we're not going to bring somebody on and not be fair to them and not give them the training and the attention that they need. It's just not the right timing. And I don't know when we're ever going to find the right timing to hire somebody.
Right.
And then you spoke and you told me all the things, and I'll let you tell all the things. But what you said was buying your time back. And one of the things that Rob and I were very clear on is that we recognized that we were doing a lot of $20 an hour tasks, a ton of them. And that's not very efficient. And it's not really good as a business owner to be doing that.
You're exactly correct.
So tell kind of what your presentation is as far as how you come in, what you do, what your people, what it looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that, Angie. And, truly, what Angie mentioned a little bit in my bio and a little bit now is it really boils down to the simplest way I can describe what we do here at EfficientAide and what we should be doing as virtual assistants, right? It is eliminating worry and buying time back, right? That's it, right? So buying time back, taking all those tasks that you don't enjoy doing or bogging you down off your plate, like inbox or scheduling appointments, you name it. But also eliminating worry, because knowing that you have an EA and a well-trained EA that's keeping an eye on things for you, keeping an eye maybe on your inbox for you, it eliminates the worry of, oh boy, I wonder what I'm missing. I guarantee you there are people listening right now that even while they're listening to this, they're looking down at their phone or they're looking at another screen because they're like, oh boy, what am I missing? What's happening in my inbox? Or they look at it and there's 500 emails sitting in there and they don't enjoy doing it, so they avoid it. And that's really like that at the highest level. That's the premise of the conversation. My talk was, let's eliminate worry and let's buy your time back. And it also relates to, this passion I have is that life is short to be doing things that you don't enjoy doing or you're not the best at doing or not the highest and best use of your time. Exactly what you mentioned, Angie. Mm-hmm. So what I want is for our clients, I want them doing what they love doing, what they're great at doing, right? And that usually is high-level strategy, relationships, growing their business. Right now, it's not doing the back and forth trying to schedule an appointment like how about Wednesday at 1 or Friday at 3, and it's not that.
Yeah.
And that's our big passion, and we follow a really great framework called EOS, which is the Entrepreneurial Operating System. They have a great tool called, I love to describe it, it's called, you have to delegate to elevate, okay? And for any business owners on the line, right, you delegate so you can free up your time to elevate. And what I also like to clarify here of what I view as elevate. Elevate does not necessarily mean I buy you back 10 hours and you spend 10 more hours doing other things in the business. It can, but elevating sometimes can mean all the time that your virtual assistant buys you back, you can also do with it absolutely nothing. Do nothing with it. You know what you can do? Go pursue a passion of yours that you've always had, a hobby. Finally make it to your kid's soccer game. Or maybe you can get home at 6 o'clock for dinner for once. And there's so much value and power to that. You can use that time to focus on the things you love, to continue to grow your business, or use it to enjoy life. Mm-hmm. And that is truly, really the big goal of that conversation. And, to get in the weeds a little bit more on what that typically looks like, right, is if you're only focusing, if you sit here and you're listening to this and think to yourself, look at all the tasks you're doing today or the tasks you're doing this week. Write them down. And then truly circle the tasks that you love doing and you are great at doing. I think a lot of folks will be shocked at how much time they're doing on tasks they don't enjoy doing, they're not the best at doing, or they know is not the highest and best use of your time. That's exactly the conversation, you and I have, Angie, right?
Yeah.
Is there's a lot of those things. And so that's where we come in here in EfficientAide. We have really high caliber, well-trained assistants that are proactive. So they say, hey, those things that are not the highest and best use time don't enjoy it. Hey, let's talk about how I can help with it. Let's talk about how that can be delegated. And here's kind of the secret sauce that you kind of really touched on is there are folks that have not hired an assistant and let go of the fine yet because they are thinking to themselves, wow, I already don't have enough time to get my own stuff done. How am I going to onboard this assistant? I better make sure all my processes are buttoned up, dialed in. And I promise you, if you wait for that moment to happen, it will never happen.
Never.
Right? But yes, it'll never happen. Like you said, you were busy. You're like, I know I need this, but I don't think I have the time to invest in it. Well, the niche we kind of take here at EfficientAide is putting a well-trained, high-caliber person in front of you. And if you find the right person, the right seat to handle that job, Angie will hopefully be able to attest to this. They direct that conversation. They will take the least amount of your time to provide the maximum amount of output. You don't have a process for it, we'll build it. You have a problem, but you don't have a clue even how to delegate it, or if a virtual assistant can do it for you, bring it up, and I promise you that VA will be able to direct that conversation very, very intelligently to say, oh yeah, that problem, your inbox is a mess. You may not have a clue on how to do it. Hey, no problem, I do. I have a bunch of great options that I've seen work really well with leaders like yourself. Mm-hmm. Here are 3 quick options. Here's what I can do for you with the goal of you not having to worry about your inbox ever again. And Angie, instead of you having to create that process and get everything cleaned up, all you had to say was, option B works for me. Let's go with that. And then instantly there's value being provided. So, really, it really boils down to delegate, to elevate, and focus on the areas you love doing. Everything else can and should be delegated. And my hope is, from Angie, your experience, and from others, it's not a dream, it's a reality. Mm-hmm. Angie, we're very fortunate enough to be working with you. And I can promise you that you're able to be highly present right now in our conversation because darn right, your assistant has your back. There's probably things happening in the business. She's handling them. She's making sure they're followed up on. And she'll probably have a nice note for you after saying, hey, hope the podcast went great. Here are a couple quick things I want to make sure you have eyes on. Yeah. And that's too good.
So I'm smiling. For those of you that are going to be watching the video, you'll see the smile on my face because my inbox has never looked so good. And I'm highly unorganized. So having somebody that is very organized and meticulous, she's been training me. I'm calling her my handler. Now because I need a handler. I need somebody that is organized. And the beauty is that she does this. This is what she does. And so she can say, hey, I've used this system before, this system. I know Google, I know HubSpot, I know this. We can do this. Here's how we can do, we can set up a system. And literally, I go through training with her and it's opposite of me training her. I mean, she's got to learn what I like and my preferences and how I want her to do that. She's getting to know us, but she's really valuable in a way that I never even considered that I would be getting out of it. Literally, I'm paying for me to learn more and to have more freedom. And it's the best money I've ever spent. And Rob would say the same thing. He literally is like, I'm so grateful for Casey. He's like, how did we ever do it? And I'm so great. And it's only been, we started onboarding in December, right? And here we are in January. Yeah. And in just 4 weeks' time, we're getting systems dialed in. We can respond better. I'm following up on tasks, things that I didn't have time to do, and we're falling through the cracks. And the bandwidth that I had is starting to raise. And so, what we are going to be able to do with our business this year is going to. I can't predict, but I can tell you, I have a lot more energy and passion to spread it elsewhere.
Yeah, it's so great to hear that. It puts a huge smile, to my face, because that's exactly the objective, we seek out. And what I also want to touch on, Angie, that I think you'll also attest to in your relationship with your EfficientAide, Casey, is sometimes our thought process is getting out of a little bit of that mindset of an admin, right? Admin, we kind of have this mindset that they're just order takers. I need to always tell them what to do, how to do it, when to do that. There's absolutely going to be situations where that's absolutely the case. There's times you'll tell Casey, hey, I need this done. Here's how I want it done. I need it done by this time.
Mm-hmm.
Consider it complete, right? But there's also that time, like you mentioned, where you say, here's just my problem I have. Can you present a solution?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a unique relationship that most people don't think about of having with their assistant, right? We kind of truly view ourselves as a partner with you.
Yeah.
Not necessarily sitting down in this admin seat. We'll do that, but we truly are looking out and being a strategic partner with you to help you grow your business.
Mm-hmm.
And the other part about it that we really strive for is not only someone who can take the admin stuff off your plate, not only someone who can provide recommendations of platforms or efficiencies or automations, but sometimes there's value in just having an accountability partner.
There is.
Right? We work with a lot of solopreneurs as well. Sometimes it's good to just have that EA be the one to say, hey, friendly reminder, Angie, we have that task. It's due on Friday. But hey, rest assured, I blocked you some time on Thursday. I have all the details in there for you. And then also check on Friday. Say, hey, Angie, I'm checking in. I blocked some time for you. Are we on track? Or a thought partner. You're fortunate to have a great business partner as well, obviously, and it always helps when it's family. But sometimes when you just want to, before you bring an idea to your team, sometimes it's nice to be able to just call up your virtual assistant and say, hey, I just have this shower thought. Hey, am I nuts? Before I bring this up in my team, and so we try to batch that into one where you're getting, an admin, you're getting an operations person, you're getting a thought partner, an accountability partner, kind of all batched into one. And that's truly what we strive for here, kind of at EfficientAide.
No, it's dreamy. That's all I can say.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, like I'm not just saying this. This is really a game changer for us, and it's been about we've been in business 7 years, but this last couple years have been really growth years for us, and so it really became possible, and it also became to the point where our workload was getting so the bandwidth, it just was not going to be able to be sustainable and enjoyable. And we're not entrepreneurs so that we can work our life away and not be there with our kids. We still have 2 younger ones. Like we want to be present when they're with us, and like things like that. We definitely want to be able to travel, and we want to be able to get outdoors, and we want to be able to have fun, and so that we show up more, so we show up better for our clients, and we practice what we preach. To be quite honest, we believe work should fuel the human spirit, and I can tell you there was a lot of things there that weren't fueling my spirit.
Yeah, that's well said.
Yeah,
really well said, and it makes me so happy obviously to hear that as well, because again, exactly what we're striving out to. I can see some very immediate results, and and like you mentioned, Angie, you've been with us for a month and a half or so, and as you'll attest to, there's some big progress being made, but there's still lots of rapport. There's still building that happens, right? And that's the big thing I like to express to people. When you work with a virtual assistant, it doesn't have to be like a 6-month ramp up until they take things off your plate.
Yeah.
There are some things right away a well-trained EA can jump in right away, start pulling off some things right away. That doesn't mean they're going to run your whole life and they're going to do everything right away. It takes some rapport and confidence to build that relationship. But as you're noticing, very efficiently, a well-trained EA can jump in, give you that immediate relief, so it frees you up to start thinking of that next phase and that next level and where you want to go. And then your EA is there to continually layer on more and more scope, more responsibility, and really scale with you as you scale the company.
Yeah.
So it's exciting to see where you're at already.
That's incredible. And I think we have quite a few entrepreneurs and business. I know we have a lot of lots of business owners and people that are interested in starting their own business. And it's just something to keep in mind because I had no idea about it. It's new. I mean, I knew about virtual assistants, but I didn't know how to go about getting one. I didn't know that you could find them, that this is what they do, this is what they love to do, they're passionate about helping people. And I didn't know it could go so smoothly. So I learned a lot in this whole process, and I'm still learning. And like I said, I'm learning more about. She knows more about HubSpot than I do, and she knows more about like all these things that she could just be like, I don't know, or she'll say I don't know, but I'll figure it out tomorrow, and I'll get back with you, and then the next day we know how to do that thing. And so it's like, oh yes, I've had this stuff for years and I don't even know how to use it fully because I don't have time to sit down and do the training. And I'll say, can you figure out how to do that? And she goes, absolutely. And I just go, oh. And then Rob and I just clap and smile with each other. I'm just like, yes, yes. So it's incredible. So for any of our listeners that are spending a lot of time doing those three things you don't enjoy, things that, what's the other two? You don't enjoy it.
Yeah. So don't enjoy it, not the best at it, or not the best use of your time.
Yep. If you're doing a lot of those things, it's a very awesome opportunity. Does it cost money? Yes. Is it worth it? Yes. And I mean, to be honest, that is probably the best money we've spent. I mean, I think about things we've spent on marketing or we've spent on swag or anything else that we've spent money on as a business. Aside from a good, solid website, I would say having a actual person to assist you in your business is key.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I believe it too. I believe it because of these stories I hear from you, Angie. I mean, I'm hearing these similar stories across the board. It's what drives me, and it's truly what our passion and goal is here. And I will follow up real quick on your comment about costing money, right? I will tell you and be very candid with you. You can certainly find virtual assistant solutions that may be more cost effective. And that maybe we've all heard that you can outsource. Maybe it's overseas, or maybe it's to someone who is a little bit green. It's not their profession. They're going to fill in. There's nothing wrong with that. I would rather someone who's listening pursue that than not. But there's a big difference in between having that well-trained person. It will not take a lot of time to help with the ramp up and onboarding, right? And Angie, you're attesting to that. Mm-hmm. So it can be done seamlessly, but I think the big takeaway is certainly those three. If you're hitting those three things, get it to anybody, right? Mm-hmm. Somebody is better than you doing it, but I will express there's a lot of value in getting a well-trained person who can not only do the things you need done, but like what you're mentioning, Angie, they can take things off your plate you had no idea they could even do, and very seamlessly. And that's really exciting.
Yeah, it's huge value. And it's so true because I've hired people off of Fiverr to help with certain things, a PDF, a marketing, something in Canva, all stuff that my virtual assistant can do. She can get into Canva. She can do, she knows how to do things. She can make a PDF. She can create a handout for me. She can do these types of things. And I can tell you, it took a lot longer to share what you needed to get done on that thing that you paid $12 for or whatever. Literally, you get what you pay for in every aspect of life.
Absolutely.
If you have experience, you
totally agreed.
Yeah. If you have experience and knowledge, it costs a little bit more but it's worth it because it doesn't take as much time and they know what they're doing. And they know how to speak. And we're all speaking the same language. There's not a language barrier either.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. There's value in being able to just pick up a call too, right?
Yeah.
Be able to just pick up the phone and talk and relate, and also have someone that has that business acumen and who has experience communicating with business leaders and professionals, right? Not someone who's maybe fresh out of high school or college who's still learning. Also someone where maybe it's a stepping stone. People have also had this experience of bringing on assistant. They finally let go of their line. They bring on an assistant. They invest all this time and energy in them, and they move on to a different career, right? And then you're back to ground zero. Well, that's a really big advantage of working with an agency like EfficientAide. We're one of many. There's lots of folks out there that provide, great services, but there's some value to that. That consistency, that redundancy, process creation. So if something does happen and life happens, you're not starting from scratch again. It's documented, and there's someone there to have Casey's back if anything were to happen. And I know that is a big concern for a lot of folks, and probably a lot of folks listening to this is, wow, it's a big commitment investment. I totally agree with that, but it can be a little bit nerve-wracking. Our goal is consistency. And if life happens and that person isn't available, hey, no problem. We can get someone else in and have that redundancy to make sure you always have coverage. And that's a really big aspect that I hear a lot in a lot of conversations I'm having.
Yeah, and after I did reach out to you to get a quote and everything, I was surprised that it wasn't, I thought it might be a little bit more. I wasn't sure how that would work, but I recognize I'm not paying benefits. I'm not paying for office space. I'm literally paying for the services, and I think it's a very fair trade for what I get. I feel like the value is there for what I get.
Yeah. I'm so happy to hear that. And I'm a big believer in it as well. I have literally devoted my entire professional career, besides a little 4-month little stint there, doing cold calling, towards this. I believe it so darn strongly that this is something everybody needs. And it is truly, and I don't say this lightly, it's life-changing. It is life-changing. If you can delegate to a well-trained EDA, your life will dramatically improve. You have more time for clarity, for thought. You have more time with family. You have more time to do stuff you love doing and growing. And it's what wakes me up. That is truly my purpose, my cause, my passion. I love helping people out. And one of the best, one of the best feedback I've ever received from a client, we started working with them for a little while, and she said to me, she said, Kyle, you have bought me my nights and my weekends back for the first time ever in my career. And you just think about that. And there's so many people that are working 12-hour days. There's people that can relate to, all right, I better get home, make dinner, you put the kids away, you put another couple hours in the night. Everybody can relate to having to do the Sunday mornings or the Saturday afternoons in the office to do all this admin type work. That is so powerful to someone to say, hey, you have bought my nights and weekends back. That's life-changing. Truly, I think about that all the time, with this business. And that's what we're striving to do. And the biggest part, which I'm so grateful for, Angie, that you've experienced it, is it's not a dream. It's truly not a dream. It is a reality. We're seeing it with Angie, and we're seeing it with folks all over the spectrum, from solopreneurs to people in large corporations. It can and should be done.
It's awesome. So we're getting to the point in the podcast where I like to ask, what is the best wisdom that you would like to share with our listeners, or things you've learned, or things you would have liked to know as you were starting out? You're young.
Really great question. Kind of two big things that I would say I would have probably liked to know, but also I want to just emphasize. Three things. First and foremost is it can be done. It can be done. I was a young punk. I didn't have any money. I'm in a state where I have no family or anything. And if you have a dream and you have a vision and you have some traction to get there, it can be done. Living proof to that, Angie, I'm sure your story's similar. There's lots of folks. It can be done. And I hope this is inspirational and motivational for anybody listening, like, ooh, it's on that verge, right? Man, should I do it? Should I do it? Go for it. That's what I can tell you, for one. And I was fortunate enough to have seen that at a very young age with my uncle at those possibilities. For those folks that weren't as fortunate, just hopefully listening to this will give you that mindset. The other big part that I would absolutely say is the biggest advice I got at a young age, and what has absolutely helped me to where I am today: surround yourself with positive and genuinely good people. Mm-hmm. There is no need for negative people. Don't be around people that aren't going to lift you up. and put yourselves in uncomfortable situations, right? That's where we grow and learn. And I remember if I would have probably put a little emphasis on that even a little bit earlier, I think I could have even progressed things along even more at a more efficient pace. But I remember in college going to networking events where I was the youngest person there by 20 years. I was freaked out, nervous. I'll tell you right now, I can go into any room and I don't have those nerves anymore because I went through that and put myself routinely in uncomfortable positions. It's huge. And the last thing that's probably one of the biggest items is find yourself a mentor. I mean, honestly, find yourself a mentor. I was fortunate enough that my mentors were my family. And I'm very grateful this day. That was my mom, my dad, my uncle. They're to this day, still, provide a lot of mentorship for me. There are lots of resources out there. If you're not as fortunate as I was to find it directly within family, there's great organizations out there. There's other folks, whether it's a school teacher or a professor or, a colleague. Find a mentor. Find someone to inspire and learn from them. Soak it up like a sponge.
Absolutely.
Those three things I can absolutely attest to the reason that I would have been very grateful to be an entrepreneur to this day and be running a healthy organization. I can really chalk it up to those three things. It's not going to be easy. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. We'd all be doing everything we always love and we're great at doing. It's going to be difficult, but it can be done. It absolutely can be done. And I'll also leave it with this. I started this company when I was in my early 20s. So a lot of folks have this mindset that they can't do that. You're too young to start a company. Everybody else is so far ahead of me, but that's for the birds. That is something that is totally made up in your mind. Anybody can do it. And what I'd suggest, look at how things are being done and challenge every single thing you see. For me, I challenged that there's got to be a better way than someone has to commute and dress up in a suit and be a W-2 full-time worker just to be able to do certain tasks. I challenge that there's got to be a different way where I can do it in my pajamas in my apartment building and still provide high value. So challenge the status quo and then believe in it and then put some actions in place to start progressing towards that. I mean that very, very sincerely, and hopefully it's motivational and inspirational to anybody who's kind of on that edge. It can be done. There's lots of great resources out there to help you.
Yeah, you're never too young and you're never too old. It doesn't matter.
Yes.
Get out of the mindset of the stories. It takes somebody that actually does the work is what it takes. It doesn't take a certain age. It takes somebody who's willing to do the work and to go through the hard stuff and to keep pursuing even in difficult times. I am grateful for your support and for how much support you're giving to your clients and the work you're doing to, eliminate the things that people don't want to do and help them buy their time back. So thank you for your time and for that work. And thank you, everyone, for listening to the Leader You podcast. If you found this useful, please share it, like and subscribe, because there's many that could probably hear and use this message. Thank you.